I stood there in the stuffy conference room of our family lawyer's office on Michigan Avenue, the kind of place where Chicago's old money goes to pretend they're still relevant, and watched my brother, Harlan, flash that alligator grin as the will was read aloud. Everything, the brownstone in Lincoln Park, the cabin up in Door County, the shares in Dad's investment firm that I'd bled for over 15 years, gone to him. Like I was some stranger who'd wandered in off the L. I'd covered for Harlan's screw-ups since we were kids. From the joyrides that ended in totaled cars to the creative accounting that nearly tanked the firm in '08. And now this? The lawyer droned on about final wishes, but all I heard was the slam of a door I'd never seen coming. And then, as the room cleared out with Harlan clapping me on the back like we were still boys wrestling over the last slice of Lou Malnati's, old Mr. Hargrove, the banker who'd handled Dad's accounts since before I could tie my own shoes, slid up beside me, his breath smelling like black coffee and regret. "Monroe," he muttered, eyes darting to make sure Harlan was out of earshot. "Your father didn't just erase you from the will. He buried you alive, framed you for the thing that got your mother killed." That whisper hit me like a slug from one of those antique revolvers Dad kept locked in his study. The kind he'd brag about from his days as a beat cop before he traded the badge for boardrooms. I froze. My loafers, cheap ones from Marshall's. Because who'd waste good money on shoes when you're propping up a sinking ship, rooted to the Berber carpet? Hargrove didn't wait for me to process. He grabbed my elbow, steering me toward the elevator like we were conspirators in some Scorsese flick. "Not here," he hissed. "My office." Now. The ride down to the street was silent, save for the hum of the ancient Otis cables and the distant wail of a siren cutting through the loop's afternoon grind. Chicago in late fall, gray skies spitting sleet. Winds off the lake that could strip paint off a Buick felt like it was conspiring with the old man already. Dad had always said the city had teeth. And right then, I believed him. Hargrove bundled me into a cab, barking First National to the driver, who nodded like he knew the drill for men with ghosts chasing them. His office was in the bowels of the bank, a windowless vault that smelled of aged paper and oiled safekeeping ledgers. He locked the door behind us, poured 2 fingers of bourbon from a flask that looked older than Prohibition, and shoved 1 glass my way. "Drink," he said. "You'll need it before I'm done." I sipped, the burn steadying my hands. "What the hell do you mean?" "Framed? Mom's accident, that was 20 years ago. Drunk driver. Hit and run. Case closed." Hargrove's laugh was a dry rasp, like leaves skittering across Wrigley Field after a Cubs loss. He sank into his creaky desk chair, the one with the brass nameplate still shining from when banks were temples to trust. "Closed? Boy. Your father wrote the damn book on closing cases he didn't want opened." He pulled a file from a drawer, the kind with string ties and yellowed edges, and slid it across. "Read the addendum. The one he made me swear to keep quiet until. Well, until now." My fingers trembled as I untied the knot. Inside, photocopies of police reports, grainy photos from the scene on Lakeshore Drive, and, buried at the bottom, a notarized affidavit from Hargrove himself, dated the night Mom died. It detailed a wire transfer, $250,000 from Dad's slush fund to an offshore account tied to a ghost LLC. And the kicker? A scribbled note in Dad's chicken scratch. "Monroe takes the heat. Harlan's clean." The room spun. I'd been 18, fresh out of high school, when it happened. Mom's Volvo crumpled like tinfoil against a semi's grill. Her body airlifted to Northwestern Memorial, where she flatlined before I could even say goodbye. The cops had hauled me in for questioning, not because I was there, but because Dad fed them a line about me borrowing her car that night, about us arguing over my dead-end job at the firm. I'd confessed to nothing. But the rumors stuck. The reckless kid. The family black sheep. It killed my scholarship to U of I. Scared off every girl from here to Evanston. And left me chained to Dad's empire. Paying penance for sins I didn't know I'd committed.
Why?
I choked out, slamming the file shut. Why pin it on me? Hargrove leaned forward, his jowls sagging like a basset hound's. Because it wasn't an accident.
Monroe.
Harlan was behind the wheel. Lit up on coke from that deal he botched with the Colombians, your father's silent partners in the firm. He panicked, called Daddy to clean it up. Elias paid off the trucker, torched the manifests, and fed you to the wolves to keep the golden boy's hands clean.
Harlan.
My brother. The charmer with the easy smile and the Rolodex full of senators. The one who'd always been Dad's favorite. The heir apparent while I mopped up the messes. I'd taken the fall for his petty thefts. His affairs that could have cost us clients. Even that insider trading whisper in 15 that the SEC sniffed at but never bit. But this? Murder? Manslaughter? At least. And Dad. The cop-turned-tycoon. Covering it up like it was just another bad quarter. I stood, knocking over the chair. That son of a bitch. Harlan's walking around with Mom's blood on his hands. And now he's got the keys to the kingdom? Over my dead. Easy, Hargrove cut in, his voice steady as Lake Michigan in a storm. Elias made me executor on a side clause. You're not penniless.
Kid.
There's a trust, modest. But enough to start over. But if you go after Harlan guns blazing, you'll drag us all down. The firm's rotten to the core. Rotten. That word hung there, heavy as the gold watch Dad had given me on my 21st, engraved for the steady hand. Steady.
Yeah, right.
I'd been the human shield, the patsy, while they built empires on lies. The bourbon soured in my gut, but something else ignited, a cold fire, the kind that simmers in dive bars on Division Street after the Sox blow a lead. Tell me everything, I said, voice low. From the beginning, Hargrove did. Over the next hour, piecing it together like a puzzle from hell. It started in the 90s, when Dad's firm, Elias Monroe Investments, dabbled in shady real estate flips with mob-tied developers. Harlan, the prodigy son, got in too deep, laundering cash through Mom's charity foundation. She found out, confronted him the night of the crash. Harlan, high and cornered, swerved into that truck trying to shake her off his tail. Dad arrived post-mortem, saw the opportunity, blame the kid, protect the legacy. And the will. I pressed. Guilt. Maybe. Or spite. Elias knew cancer was eating him alive, pancreatic. Stage 4 by the time he called me in. He wanted Harlan to sweat, but not enough to break him. Cut you out to toughen you,
he said.
Bullshit. It was control, right to the grave. I left that vault with the file tucked under my arm and $5 grand in cash from the trust, seed money. Hargrove called it. The sleet had turned to rain, pounding the sidewalks like fists on a debtor's door. I hailed another cab, but instead of home to my one-bedroom in Wicker Park, I directed it to Harlan's penthouse overlooking the river. Not to confront, not yet.
Just to watch.
To see the man who'd stolen my life, toasting his windfall with a Macallan while Mom's ghost gathered dust in a Graceland cemetery plot. The doorman waved me up. Family. After all. Harlan answered in silk pajamas, a tumbler in hand, looking every bit the king. Monroe, brother,
Comaine.
drown your sorrows. Dad was a prick. But hey, more pie for us.
Us.
The lie twisted like a knife. I forced a smile, clinking glasses. To family, I said, and meant it like poison. That night, as I lay on my lumpy futon listening to the L train rattle by, plans coalesced. Revenge isn't a sprint, it's a marathon through the snows of Indiana. The kind that freezes your bones, but thaws you into something unbreakable. Harlan thought he was untouchable, perched in his glass tower. But towers fall. And I'd be the termite chewing from within. The next morning, I hit the streets. First stop, a PI named Rizzo. An ex-cop Dad had blackballed years back. Over eggs at a greasy spoon on Taylor Street, I slid him a grand and the file.
Dig.
Everything, Harlan's deals, Dad's skeletons. That night on the drive.
Discreet.
Rizzo nodded, scar on his cheek pulling tight. For you, half price. Elias screwed me on a pension once. This'll be cathartic. Then, the library at the Harold Washington Center, free Wi-Fi and microfiche that smelled like forgotten promises. I pored over clippings. Mom's obit. Sanitized. The firm's rise through the aughts. Fueled by aggressive investments. Whispers of money laundering. But nothing stuck. Harlan's name popped in society pages, galas at the Art Institute, arm candy on his elbow, but never the dirt. By noon, my phone buzzed. Hargrove. Harlan's moving fast. Liquidating assets. Calling in favors. He's spooked. Thinks you're coming for him. Good, I muttered. Hanging up. Let him sweat. That's when the real work began. I started small. Anonymous tips to the Trib's business desk, irregularities in the firm's filings, shell companies linked to Harlan's college buddies. Nothing prosecutable. Just enough to make the shares dip, to watch his empire wobble. Then, deeper, hacking into old firm emails via a backdoor I'd known about since the dial-up days. Passwords never changed. Because why bother when you're invincible? There it was, a chain from 20 years back. Harlan to Dad. She knows.
Pop.
The foundation books. I gotta fix this. Dad's reply. Handled. Stay low. Monroe's your cover. My hands shook as I forwarded copies to a burner email. Evidence. Leverage. But revenge isn't just proof. It's personal. I needed Harlan to feel the isolation I'd known since Mom's funeral. When friends drifted because troubled kid, vibes clung like lake effect snow. That weekend, I crashed his engagement party at the Peninsula, black tie. Champagne flutes clinking like false teeth. His fiancée, Lila, was a leggy attorney from the North Shore, all waspy poise and trust funds. I cornered her by the dessert table, casual as a cousin at a cookout. Harlan ever mention his mom? How she died? She blinked. Pearls shifting.
Car accident.
Tragic. Why? Just. Family lore. He was driving that night. You know. Dad covered it up. Pinned it on me. Her laugh was polite.
Disbelieving.
But doubt's a seed. And I watered it with a printed email. Slipped into her clutch like a party favor. Read it later. For the vows. Harlan spotted me across the room, his smile cracking like thin ice on the Chicago River. He strode over, clapping my shoulder too hard. Monroe, You made it. Booze is that way. I met his eyes. Steel on silk. Just toasting the happy couple. And Mom. She'd want that. He paled. Just a fraction. Victory. Small but sweet. As I slipped out into the night, the wind whipping off the Magmile, I felt the shift. No longer the broke brother. I was the ghost in the machine. The shadow Harlan had created. And shadows lengthen at dusk. But Hargrove's warning echoed. The firm's rotten. Dig too deep, and you unearth your own grave. I pushed it down. For Mom. For the life stolen. Little did I know, the rot went deeper than blood. Weeks blurred into a haze of caffeine and cat and mouse. Harlan ramped up his charm offensive, calls at dawn. Voicemails thick with bromance. Hey, bro. Let's grab Gibson's. Talk it out. Dad was wrong. I'll cut you in.
Cut me in.
Like scraps from the table. I ghosted him, letting silence do the talking. Meanwhile, Rizzo delivered in drips, photos of Harlan at strip clubs in River North. Payoffs to ex-employees who'd resigned after whistleblowing attempts. And the big one, a ledger from the foundation, showing Harlan siphoning funds for his vices. Mom's signatures forged in Dad's hand. I holed up in a no-tell motel off Cicero, the kind with hourly rates and roaches that paid rent. There, under the flicker of a neon vacancy sign, I applauded. Not violence, that's for amateurs and episodes of SVU reruns.
No.
This was surgical, expose the fraud. Watch the dominoes topple. I'd leak to the feds anonymously, but twist the knife with a public unmasking. A letter to the editor? Too tame. A viral post on that X app, timed with a board meeting? Better. But Harlan was slippery. He'd flip the script. Paint me as the jealous sibling. The fall guy turned felon. Lila called first. Her voice on the burner was ice steel, the kind honed in Lake Forest courtrooms. Monroe. What the hell? That email, it's damning. Harlan says you're fabricating. Out for revenge. Is it true? I lean back on the sagging bed, the springs groaning like my conscience. Every word. Ask him about the night on the drive. Ask why he smells like Chanel No. 5 when he swears he was home. Silence. Then a sharp intake. We're done. The wedding's off. But if this blows back. It won't, I lied. Just truth. Lila. That's all. She hung up, and I picture Harlan's face when she tossed the ring, probably a rock big enough to sink the Titanic.
Petty? Sure.
But cathartic, like draining an abscess. The shares tanked 15% that Monday. Whispers of internal strife hitting CNBC. Harlan retaliated swift, a process server at my door with eviction papers for the brownstone, claiming I'd abandoned it. Abandoned. After I'd renovated the kitchens, fixed the leaks during that 19 flood. I laughed, bitter, and countersued pro bono through a legal aid shark who'd owed Dad a grudge. That's when Hargrove became my unlikely oracle. We met in Grant Park, under the shadow of that giant Picasso, tourists snapping pics while we huddled on a bench slick with dew. Harlan's lawyering up, he warned, breath fogging in the chill. Hired the same firm that buried the accident. And he's digging into your finances.
Your
indiscretions. Indiscretions. Code for the one-night stands that filled the void after Dad's endless disappointments lectures. Or the bar fights in Bridgeport where I'd swing first to feel alive. Nothing criminal. but Harlan could spin it. What else? I pressed. Hargrove hesitated, eyes on a flock of pigeons pecking at crumbs. The trust? It's not just money. Elias left you proof, a recording. Of Harlan confessing. The night after. But accessing it. It's in the firm's vault. Biometric lock. Harlan's thumbprint. My mind raced. Break-in?
Suicide mission.
Bribe a guard? Risky. Seduce a secretary? Harlan's harem was loyal.
No, befriend.
Harlan had a new assistant, fresh-faced kid from DePaul, posting thirst traps on LinkedIn. I created a profile, Monroe Hale, Venture Scout, ex-Monroe Investments, flattery, coffee runs, and by week's end, she was spilling access codes, shift changes. The heist went down at 2 a.m., fog rolling off the lake like cigarette smoke. I slipped in through the loading dock, heart hammering louder than the freight elevators. The vault was a cathedral of steel and secrets, humming with climate control. I pressed the kid's code, held my breath as the mechanism whirred. Inside, safety deposit boxes, each a Pandora's tick. Box 717, Elias's scrawl on the label. The recording was a mini cassette, ancient tech in a digital world. Labeled for M, truth at last. I pocketed it, adrenaline surging, and ghosted out before the night watchman finished his rounds. Back in the motel, I rigged a player from a pawn shop boombox. Hit play in the dark. Harlan's voice, slurred and young. Pop, it was her or me. She was gonna rat to the feds. The laundering. I didn't mean, the truck came out of nowhere. Dad's rumble. Soothing poison.
Son.
It's done. Monroe'll take the blame. He's soft. Won't fight. We protect family. A pause. Then Harlan. Sly, what if he talks?
Dad, he won't.
Or we'll make sure he doesn't.
Click.
The tape ended, but the rage looped eternal. I copied it to my phone, uploaded to a dead man's cloud switch.
Now.
The weapon was armed. Harlan struck next. Personal. A brick through my motel window at dawn. Note attached. Back off. Or everyone knows your secret. My secret? The one I'd buried deeper than Mom. That night. I'd known. Not the details. But Dad pulled me aside post-funeral. Eyes hard. You were there.
Son.
Don't make me regret trusting you. I nodded.
Terrified.
And let the lie fester. Was I complicit? Had I glimpsed Harlan's taillights? Chased but turned back? Doubt not. But I shoved it down. No time for what-ifs. I escalated. Sent the tape snippet. Blurred. Anonymous. To Harlan's biggest client. A hedge fund whale from Greenwich. Due diligence, the email read. The fund pulled 20 mil that afternoon. Headlines screaming Monroe Investments in turmoil. Harlan called. Finally cracking. Monroe. You bastard. Meet me. The cabin. Tonight. Or I go public with your involvement. The cabin, Door County, Wisconsin. A log monstrosity Dad bought in '72 for bonding weekends that ended in silences thicker than the cheese curds. I agreed. Packed a go bag with the full tape and hit I-94 north. The lake to my right like a black mirror reflecting my sins. The drive was 4 hours of torment. Radio flipping between Maroon 5 and Static. My mind replaying Mom's laugh, rare. Like Cubs playoffs wins. What would she say now? Hero or monster? Harlan was there at dusk. fire crackling in the stone hearth, a bottle of Napa Cab breathing on the pine table. He looked smaller without the city sheen, flannel shirt hanging loose. "Brother," he said.
Pouring.
"Truce."
Iset.
Accepting the glass but not drinking. "Truce? After you killed her?" His face crumpled. "Real or theater? It was an accident."
Coke.
"Yeah. But she jumped in my car, screaming about the books." I swerved. "Liar." I slid the phone across. Hit play. His confession filled the room. Tinny but damning. He listened, then laughed a hollow bark. "So what?"
Dad's dead.
"The tape's inadmissible, chain of custody, all that." "And you knew?"
Monroe.
"Dad told me." "You saw me peel out. Did nothing." "Accomplice." The word landed like a sucker punch.
Had I?
Memories fragmented. Headlights in the rain. A figure waving me off.
Me.
Turning back to the party. Too scared to follow. Complicit. The fire popped. Mocking. "Then why fray me harder?" I snarled. "The will. Your coronation on my corpse." Harlan leaned in, eyes gleaming like a coyote's. "Because you're weak. Always were." Dad saw it, the steady hand that drops the ball. It's mercy. Walk away. Take the scraps. Or I burn us both. Mercy. The word twisted, and in that moment, I saw the flip, not remorse, but calculation. He was baiting me, recording maybe, to flip the narrative. I stood, knocking the glass to shatter on the hearth. No truce. Just endgame. I left him there, tape in pocket, driving south through the dark. But as the taillights faded, his words burrowed. Accomplice. The doubt swelled, a tide pulling me under. Back in Chicago, Hargrove met me at a dive on Rush Street, faces blurred by low light and lucky strikes. "You played it wrong," he said, nursing a old style. "Harlan's calling a presser tomorrow. Family reconciliation. He'll spin you as unstable. Leak your bar tabs. Your therapy notes from after mom. Therapy. The sessions I'd hidden. Pills for the nightmares." Harlan had rifled my files?
Paranoia spiked.
"Then we preempt," I said. Full leak, taped to the Sun-Times. Feds. Even that podcaster who did the Blago takedown. But Hargrove shook his head. "There's more." Elias's cancer? Harlan accelerated it. Tampered meds, mercy killing. He called it in an email I found. To protect the firm from Dad's deathbed confession. Harlan. Again. The golden boy. Now the angel of death. My brother. My jailer. My mirror. The presser loomed. I had one night to decide. Expose everything. Damn the complicity. Or cut a deal and slink away. The city lights blurred as I walked the mag. Decisions heavy as the L overhead. Dawn broke gray. And I chose fire. The leak hit like a nor'easter off the lake. Anonymous dropped to every outlet from the Trib to that sleazy clickbait site run out of a Wicker Park loft. By 10 a.m., Harlan's presser was a circus. Mics jammed. Reporters shouting over each other in the firm's lobby. Glass walls fogged with breath. I watched from a coffee shop across the street. Burner laptop open to live streams. Steam rising from my Americano like the smoke from a fresh kill. Harlan took the podium in a bespoke suit, tie straight as a guillotine blade. His fiancée notably absent. "Family is sacred," he intoned. voice steady as a preacher's at holy name. My brother Monroe and I have disagreements. But blood is thicker. Dad's will was a test. One we're passing together. Lies. Polished to a sheen. Then the questions flew. Mr. Monroe. Sources say a tape exists. Your confession to vehicular manslaughter. Harlan's smile faltered. Just a twitch. But the cameras caught it. Fabrications. Jealousy from a disgruntled sibling. Will sue. Too late. By noon. The audio snippet aired on WGN. Harlan slurred. I didn't mean. Looping like a bad acid trip. Shares cratered 40%. Clients fleeing like rats from the Tribune Tower. Harlan's phone must have melted. I imagined him in his office. Veins bulging. Dialing fixers. He texted the burner. You win this round. But game's not over.
Meet.
Neutral ground. The old pier. The pier, Navy Pier. Tourist trap turned confessional. I went. Dusk, painting the Ferris wheel blood red. Crowds milling with cotton candy and regrets. Harlan waited at the end. Wind tugging his overcoat. Looking like a Kennedy who'd lost the election. Monroe, he called.
No brotherly worms.
Enough. What do you want? Justice, I said, stopping short of arm's reach. Waves lapped below.
Hungry.
Mom's name cleared. You in cuffs. The firm gutted. He scoffed. But his eyes darted fear? Calculation? Justice? You're as guilty as me.
You saw?
You stayed silent. Dad said you waved me on. Flashed. Rain-slicked asphalt. Taillights braiding red. Had I? Or was it projection? His guilt bleeding into mine? Lies. I spat. But even if you killed her, Dad. Maybe me next. His laugh was wind-whipped. Dad, a cancer took him. I eased the pain. Morphine drip. Doctor's note. Mercy. A flip. Casual as changing lanes on the Dan Ryan. Mercy again. But the email Hargrove mentioned. Tampered meds. Proof. Show me the note, I demanded. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket.
Chris vellum.
Forged. Probably. Dad's scrawl mimicked. But the date off by a week. I pocketed it. This? Your noose. Harlan's face hardened. The charmer gone. Then let's end it. Joint statement. Family reconciliation. You get 10% of the firm. We bury the tape.
The past.
Or I go nuclear, your complicity to the DA. Accomplice after the fact. 10 years. Minimum. The offer hung. Tempting as sin in a South Side church.
10% million.
Stability. A life beyond shadows. But the pier creaked underfoot. And I saw Mom's face in the waves. Accusatory.
No.
Go to hell, I said. Turning. His hand shot out. Grabbing my arm, vice grip. Eyes wild.
Wait.
Brother. Please. The plea cracked something in me. Family. That toxic glue. For a heartbeat, I wavered. What if we walked away? 2 broken Monroes rebuilding? Then I remembered the will. The smirk. The blood. I twisted free, shoving him back. He stumbled. Coat catching on a rusted rail. The lake yawning below. No push, just momentum. Fate's nudge. But he teetered, eyes wide. And in that split, I chose, extended a hand, pulled him upright. Truce, he gasped.
Clinging. No.
But mercy, maybe. His mercy poisoned mine.
Tentative.
We parted without words. Him limping to a waiting car. Me melting into the crowd. That night, the full leak dropped. Tape, ledgers, the forged note. Feds swarmed the firm by morning. Harlan in cuffs on live TV. Screaming, "It's Monroe. He set me up." The headlines split the city. Brothers' betrayal. Justice or vendetta? Talk radio pitted callers. Harlan's a monster versus Monroe's no saint, he knew. Polarized. Just like the Hook Hargrove predicted. I holed up in a new spot. Andersonville walk up. Watching the storm from afar. Hargrove visited. Bearing groceries and grim news. Charges stick. Manslaughter reopened. Fraud. Elder abuse. Harlan singing. Trying to flip on phantom partners.
But you.
DA circling. That peer shove? Witnesses fuzzy. But your history.
History.
The bar fights. The silence.
Complicity.
I pulled him back. I said, defensive. Hargrove nodded. Slow. But blood calls to blood. Elias left one last gift, the trust deed. It absolves you. Notarized. Monroe bore no fault. Posthumous pardon. Dad's final flip. Guilt. Too late. I laughed. Hollow. Why now? Because you're the steady hand. Son. Always were. The cabin haunted me next. I drove up solo. Snow dusting the pines like powdered sugar on beignet. The place reeked of ghosts. Dad's pipe tobacco. Mom's lavender. In the attic, buried under Christmas tins. A box, letters. Mom's.
To me.
Unsent. My boy. Don't let them dim your light. Harlan's lost. But you're found. Tears came. Hot and unbidden.
Found. Was I?
Harlan's trial loomed. Spring thaw melting the ice. I testified truth. Unvarnished. The cover-up. The will.
The peer.
Jurors shifted. Uncomfortable. No heroes here. Just shades of gray. Harlan took the stand. Flipping again. Monroe goaded me. He wanted it all.
Lies.
But his eyes pleading.
Broken.
Brother. The verdict. Guilty. 25 to life. No death penalty in Illinois. Thank God or devil. As they led him away, he mouthed, sorry.
Real?
Or theater.
Outside.
Protesters clashed. Free Harlan. Frame job versus justice for Evelyn Monroe. I slipped through. Anonymous in the scrum. But the twist waited in the mail. A letter. Harlan's scrawl from Cook County Jail. You pulled me back that night, too. On the drive. Waved me on. Then Chase saw the crash. Called Dad instead of 911. Why? Memory flooded. Yes. I'd followed. Too late. Panicked. Dialed home. Complicit. Fully. The secret I'd half buried. Now exhumed. Dad knew. Harlan knew. And in absolving me, Dad damned us all, perpetuating the lie. I burned the letter in the cabin hearth. Ashes swirling like fireflies. Revenge tasted like ash too, victory hollow. The empire dust. Yet, as I drove south, lake sparkling under a rare sun, a choice, rebuild, or fade. The steady hand, Steady still. Summer hit Chicago like a fever dream, humidity thick as gumbo. Streets alive with rib fests and blues under the stars. The firm dissolved in bankruptcy court. Assets auctioned off to pay victims. Mom's foundation reborn. Scholarships in her name. I took a job at a small credit union in Pilsen, advising immigrants on loans. Nothing flashy, but honest. No towers. No schemes, just ledgers that balanced. Hargrove retired to Florida, but not before deeding me the cabin outright. Elias's last wish, he said over Zoom. Golf shirt crisp. Fix it up. Make it yours. I did. Weekends hammering new floors, painting walls Mom's blue. Lila visited once. Tentative coffee on the porch swing. Harlan wrote, "Claims are the villain. But I see it now. You saved him. That night."
Saved.
The word lingered, debated in my head like Barstool philosophers at Hooters on game day.
Hero?
Enabler? The twist nod. My call to Dad hadn't just covered. It had enabled. If I dialed 911, Mom lives? Harlan exposed early. Reformed?
Or me?
The snitch. Cut from the cloth sooner? Debate fodder. Endless. Online forums lit up post-trial. Monroe's revenge was righteous. Patriarchy toppled. Versus. Vigilante justice? He manipulated the system. Just like them. No consensus. Just the American way, picking sides in the Coliseum of cable news. Harlan appealed from Supermax. Pro-SE briefs rambling about conspiracies. Me at the center. His letters piled up. Postmarked Rayford. Brother. We're the same. Dad's puppets. Forgive. Forgiveness? A luxury for saints. Not sinners like us. I wrote back once. Forgiven. But not forgotten. Live with it. Mailed it. Then blocked the return. The high point came unannounced. A check from the trust. Final disbursement. Enough for a down payment on a bungalow in Logan Square. Picket fence and all. I signed the papers at a notary on Division. The kind with faded Cubs posters and a cat named Slugger. Big day, she said. Stamping. Yeah, I replied. New start. But endings twist.
Don't they?
That fall. As leaves turned the parks to fire, Rizzo called. Loose end. Monroe. That trucker from the crash? Still alive. In a trailer park outside Gary. Says Harlan paid him off. But there's more. Witnessed you at the scene.
Me.
The phantom memory solidified. I'd arrived post-impact. Checked Mom's pulse. Then fled when Dad roared up. Witnessed. Not just silent, present. The DA reopened a side probe. Obstruction. Not charges. Yet. But questions. Hargrove's absolution held in civil court. But criminal? Gray area. I lawyered up. Cheap suit from the Yellow Pages. The interview room at the federal building smelled of stale Joe and desperation. Mr. Monroe, the feds said, tie loose. Why not call emergency? Fear, I admitted. Voice steady. Family first. He nodded. No judgment, just the grind. Case weak. But Harlan's talking, says you orchestrated the leak to cover your tracks. Flip again. From victim to co-conspirator. The brotherly bond. Weaponized. No indictment came, but the stain lingered. Job offers dried. Neighbors whispered over stoop fears. I sold the bungalow. Moved to a studio in Ukrainian village. Walls thin as promises. Winter brought clarity. Or madness. Christmas Eve. Alone with a white Hennessy and Dean Martin crooning on the radio. I dug out the tape, full version. Harlan sobs. Dad's hush. Played it low, letting it wash over like absolution denied. Then, the doorbell, rare in that building. A woman, mid-40s, coat dusted with snow. Monroe? I'm Elena Vargas. Your mother's half-sister. From the barrio in Pilsen. She wrote me. Before. Aunt Elena. Mom's secret. Buried like so much else. She handed an envelope. Yellowed. Mom's will. Alternate to Dad's control. Left me the foundation shares. Untainted. She knew about Harlan, Elena said. Eyes wet. Told me to watch you. Protect.
Protect.
The word broke me. We talked till dawn. Stories of Mom's youth. Escaping the old neighborhood. Marrying the cop with dreams. You did right, Elena said. Justice? Messy but yours.
She stayed.
Family forged in fire. We revived the foundation proper. Grants for at-risk kids. Driving scholarships to break cycles. Harlan's appeal failed. He got life. No parole. His last letter. Tell Elena hi. And Monroe, thanks for the mercy.
Mercy.
His poison. My salve. Spring bloomed, and I stood at Mom's grave. Cherry blossoms shedding like confetti. We made it, I whispered. No victory march. Just quiet reclaiming. But the debate rages in me, in headlines fading to footnotes. Was it revenge or redemption? Betrayal avenged, or sins multiplied? No tidy bow, life's a south side alley, full of turns. I walk it anyway. Steady hand on the wheel. Chicago's teeth bite, but they don't break you, not if you're Monroe. The end? Yours to argue.